gang, welcome back to Tin Man Customs, where we're getting ready to start on another figure. And this time I'm going to head back to the Botcon 2017 proposed set that they showed the prototypes off of. I've already worked on Skyfall, which I'll put a link down below to where you can check that video out if you want to see. One of the other characters they had in the set was Hotshot from Armada, done using this Chromedome mold. So I fortunately had an extra Chromedome, and thanks to my friend who donated a bin of figures to me, I've also got the Generations Hotshot figure, and I'm going to, see, that's why he's in the mod fodder bin. He's a little loose on the feet and stuff. But I'm going to use the head from this to somehow modify that down, sculpt it, cut it up to fit onto the Titan Master here. And I'm thinking about doing some changes to the actual mold here on Chromedome. The prototype figure was just it was just a repaint, straight up repaint, and with a new head. So I'm going to definitely try getting the head to work, but I'm thinking about changing up his vehicle mold some to incorporate some of the pieces from this guy to maybe make him look a little more like Hotshot. But we'll go ahead and start taking this guy apart and removing pieces of this to see how well this is going to work. Sort of a 3D sketch, we'll call it. Alright gang, so instead of just going with the straight repaint of Chromedome that the figure was proposed to be on the prototype, I'm trying to incorporate in some of the bits that will look a little more like Hotshot in vehicle mode. So the spoilers, those fit on just fine. They're glued in place. It makes it a little tighter fit to open the panels up when you transform in, but it works. Now the front end of the car, we're still got some gaps, and we're going to smooth this out. I'll end up using some fix-it putty on there. I've been working on cutting this out in order to have the chest panel still fit up there. I may alter the chest some, I'm not sure yet. Depends how long this project ends up going. Let's see here. I've got some of the hood panels from the Hotshot figure. I may try to cut that down and file that down and putty those into place and round it out so the hood looks a little more like Hotshot's. And I will probably assemble the engine block back up and put that on there as well. So we'll keep, that's where he's at now. I'm probably at the point where I'll have to do some of the putty work on that, get him taken apart and spray painted, but other than that, he's coming along all right. And here we've got him all painted up. The paint has been problematic on this guy for sure. Just really didn't come out as bright or smooth as I wanted to, but at this point I'm gonna get him put back together and finish painting. Gang, here we go. Finally done with this guy, and let me tell you, this is one of the biggest pain in the rears I've had since starting the channel. This guy, I think most every step on this figure I had issues with in some way, shape, or form. But he's done. He may not be where I'm 100% happy with it, but I think I'm happy to just be done with him and add him to the Botcon prototype figures that I'm working on here. And he does look a little different than the prototype that they put up on display. They they had done just a complete repaint of Chromedome with a different head on there, basically using the Generations Hotshot head mold as a base. And I did still use that same head, but we added, I'm gonna go ahead and take his weapon out of here. It's in there really tight. This sword is the Star Saber sword from the 2004 Grand Convoy set from Takara that came with a kicker figure in the Microman style. That figure broke almost immediately on my set, so I've just had these weapons laying around that were from that set, and figured I'd make a good weapon for him instead of trying to find a blaster for him or something. Again, the prototype had him armed with 3 colored versions of Hotshots, or Chromedome's blasters, and was using a figure called Blaze Master, repainted for Jolt, and I've just used the Jolt from the Generations Hotshot that I used for the head, and you'll see there's a couple other parts on him that I used from that figure, but we'll get to that when he's in vehicle mode. This way, didn't have to do a repaint on him whatsoever, but I'm going to go ahead and move him out. So, should go into, I suppose, what I've done and some of the issues I've had with him before comparing him with some of the others. The yellow paint went on really, really thick in order to try and cover everything. The red paint did not actually cover. You can see there's a little bit of two-tone red difference there, and so that's disappointing, but at the same time it does look like he's wearing red pants with a red shirt, so it's at least not a weird separation like where half of that's dark red or something, so I'm okay with that. Let's see. Went in and changed some of his chest. I've got a lot of this material that was from one of the old X-Men Toy Biz figures. I've used it on several of my other customs because it's a rubbery material, so I can kind of form fit it against some of the figures. But I did that to make Hotshot's chest straps that looks like he's got a 5-point harness on. And head, we're using the face shield, or the front of the face, off of the Generations Hotshot figure. My intention was, with this guy, was to have the closable shield like on the Generations Hotshot, which is why you can see on the side here that I had dug out some of the arm on the Titan Master there. I had planned on working in the pegs for the face shield. The face shield actually broke in half while I was working with it, and the pegs never lined up or fit completely with the arms, so I ended up scrapping that idea, cutting all of that off, and had to glue the visor in, and unfortunately ended up painting it a solid color, which I'll show you in a minute when I show some of the other Hotshot figures. This actually matches the original figure where he didn't have a translucent. Let's see, on this ended up painting this figure up a little bit different. Wow. Alright, the color scheme on this is a little different than what they had on the prototype. Just, again, having the issues with the paint I had on this guy, I didn't want to layer too much paint on this to have multiple colors and stuff, because it's just going to get scraped off every time I plug him into the neck there. So I just left that silver, but all in all, not too bad there. Just a few little disappointments on there that I was hoping to do that didn't work out. Joints are all still pretty stiff. Like I said, though, the yellow ended up going on really thick, and the yellow isn't actually it isn't as bright a yellow that I was hoping for. And I think that may have to do with an error on my part of using a primer that came out a lot darker than I thought it would. And I think if I had used more of a white primer, this yellow would be a lot brighter, and it may have even covered better having a lighter. I'm going to have to test that on another figure, but I am so leery of using yellow again because it just comes out so poorly. But I've also run in recently to issues with, I really hate to say anything bad about them because I've always used Tamiya brand paints, and I've been having trouble with them on the last few figures. And I don't know if it's necessarily their brand, or it may be the stores in my location are not stocking new paint. And so I'm just getting into old stock that's been there for a really long time. And maybe that's what the problem is I'm running into. So I'm going to have to start looking for other paint brands, I think, that I can actually get my hands on in my area. I am pretty limited. It was surprising. I'm in a big town, but there's very few hobby shops, which is disappointing. So we're going to go ahead and compare him with a couple of different versions here. So this is the figure I started with. You can see a little bit of difference there in the chest. Obviously the heads are different, but not much else really looks different. We'll see some bigger differences when we get him into vehicle mode. Roll it back here. Yeah, you can see there's a different hood, engine, and there's spoilers on this guy. So once we get into vehicle mode, you'll really see more of the difference there. And let's go ahead and look at some other Hotshots. This is my Generations Hotshot that I will be hanging on to. He also has terrible shoulders, which seems to be a running gag for the Hotshot figures, is to have terrible shoulders that don't work very well. So this is the one I swiped a lot of parts from and took some paint cues from, like having the dark blue on the sides. I painted in the dark blue, as you can see, inside the wheel wells on that figure, just to have some similarities there. So that's the Generations figure. And here is the original Hotshot from the Transformers Armada line, which was a pretty fun line. Looking back on it now, I think I have a lot more fondness for it now than I did when they were first coming out. I thought they were a little blocky. But looking at my shelf of G1 figures from when I was a kid, they were very blocky as well. So I think my fondness for the Armada line has grown over the years. This is the original Jolt figure. I think he's better than the one that came out in the Generations line, in all honesty. But here he is, and as you can see, his visor's still articulated, but it is the dark blue like the one on mine, which, again, just kind of taking paint cues from both the Generations and Armada one. And take that extra armor off, and he's got the 5-point harness as well. There, that is. All right, we'll get him out of there, and I'll go ahead and put him, we'll show him off with the other Botcon prototype figures I've done up. Now, here he is with the Skyfall figure that I had done a while ago. And his little partner. And I went ahead, this is not really a custom of mine, because I used the Toy Hacks sticker set and extra weapons for the Titans Return Optimus Prime to convert him into the Power Master Optimus. Really like this mold and this figure, so I was a little leery of actually repainting him into the Power Master Prime. Not fully decided on that, so sticker upgrade set I was okay with, and I might go back at some point and paint him up with, you know, the extra blue legs and repainting the Titan Master. But I really like the Titan Master on this figure, so I don't know about completely repainting him. But he works visually as the Botcon 2017 set, so that's where I'm going with that. So we'll move these guys out, get this lined up, and then we'll get him transformed and take a look at his vehicle mode. In his vehicle mode. As you can see, he's got a different nose than the Chromedome vehicle. This one's taken and cut off of the Generations Hotshot. Let's get these back. So I pulled off a lot of, I think, the first quarter of his nose and fastened it on here using Avis Fix-It Sculpt and some glue. And this was actually another one of my issues I had with the figure. As it was sitting overnight drying and all the Fix-It Sculpt was setting up and the glue, etc., was all drying, the nose of the car shifted slightly down, so the bumper hangs just a touch too low for the wheels to actually roll freely on the ground. I probably shouldn't have even pointed that out, but I figured I better, in case someone decides they want to try this, be aware that that's going to be a problem as far as getting that flush with the hood from Chromedome, as well as getting the bumper up high enough to where the wheels still work on him. Not horrible. You know, he's going to be sitting on my shelf, not really being played with, driven around everywhere. Also pulled the spoilers off of this, put them on the tail end of this. They fit right into some of these grooves here. There were some the posts that were already in there. So that gave me some placement. You can see, again, a little uneven there. But at least gave him some spoilers. And so that worked out pretty well. Also grabbed the pieces of this engine, put them on there, because that was to go, came out of there. That was to go in line with how Hotshot had the engine sticking out of the top of the car there. So worked in this design, just taped it off and painted that in. You can see, let's see, a few spots where the yellow got scuffed, and no amount of painting would put that back on there. Painted some silver, white, some gunmetal. Used the gunmetal on the engine along with a little bit of the silver. Threw some gunmetal on the wheels for the rims. I'm not sure how well that shows up on camera. And there he is. Taillights, Had to add those because he was just so blah when he was just yellow. And all in all, the vehicle mode works pretty well. I like that it's a different profile than the Chromedome mold, which I've already used this mold for Siren and I believe another custom that I'm either working on now or I've already put out. I'm not sure. But it's a great car mode for having a car character. But I liked him having a very different profile. So that would be very cool. If you're real savvy with the 3D printer, you could probably make a whole new hood piece to put on there, which would be pretty neat. And so there he is. And yeah. There he is with his helicopter pal, little Jolt, and you know, he's fine. So we're gonna get him back in robot mode and take a final look at him. All right, so final thoughts on this guy. You know, sometimes your best laid plans are gonna come up with a few bumps, but we got him finished, and I'm okay with him. He'll look fine on the shelf with the other figures for sure, but definitely some things I can take away and try and do better on the next figure I do, especially if I'm going to be working with yellow again. We're going to try using a much lighter primer and see how that works out, and maybe try a few other brands of paint just to see if that's the problem that I'm having or not. And give me a thumbs up if you like what you've seen here. Go ahead and follow along on Instagram at tinman_customs and give me some feedback. Let me know what you think, any suggestions you have, and share the video if you want to. And as always, thanks for stopping by, and I'm going to get back to work on one of my next projects.